secondary claims that were used to back up this claim were the following. Abortion is murder because the fetus can feel pain, and it should be illegal because abortion puts the mother in danger. To commence, I just want to talk about a court decision that was made nearly 45 years ago. Roe v. Wade was argued by Sarah Waddington and Linda Coffey in the Supreme Court of the United States in order to protect the rights of women and their bodies. The trial ignited in Texas, which is important to add on because before Roe v. Wade took place in 1973, Texas allowed their women to have abortions if the case was that the mother's health was in danger. My opponent wants to eliminate that. In the beginning of my advocate's claim, many numbers are introduced by a variety of sources. These numbers represented percentages of beliefs among abortion and how many people were either pro-life or pro-choice. There is no reliability among these different types of polls that were conducted by different sites whatsoever. Because each were gathered differently and in different places, it is unreliable and it is potentially biased. These polls are especially irrelevant because they are opinion polls about what people think. Public opinions are not going to establish anything against the fact, even though the claim was introduced as a claim of policy. The first claim that my opponent introduced was that abortion is murder because the fetus is able to feel pain. The advocate states that the fetus feels sensations as early as 12 weeks. Studies, however, have shown that the embryo starts to feel by third and last trimester. The Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists conducted a study in 2010 which mentioned that from 10 weeks, nerve terminals become more numerous and extend towards the outer surface of the skin. The terminals closer to the surface are likely to be immature nociceptors necessary for pain experience following tissue damage, but they are not unequivocally present until the 17 weeks. This interprets into the fact that fetuses do not feel pain because they are not sufficiently developed to the point where pain signals are able to be sent to the body. In order for the fetus to feel pain, a cortex must be developed. The cortex is a part of the brain that feels pain, and it is functional at around 26 weeks gestation, not 12. According to Fox News, 91% of abortion takes place during the first trimester, which is from week 1 to week 12. Therefore, most abortions do not impose any pain on the fetus. The second proposed claim was that the mother is put in danger when it comes to abortions. To be more explicit, the claim stated that there was a link between breast cancer and abortion. However, there are many sources that say the contrary. During the 1990s in Denmark, a total of 1.5 million women were gathered in order to try and find correlation between abortion and breast cancer. This study was led by the National Registry of Induced Abortions and the Danish Cancer Registry. Surely enough, the researchers found that induced abortions had no overall effect on the risk of breast cancer. This research was the largest and is possibly the most reliable, especially because Denmark is a country with very detailed medical records. Serious complications were also mentioned by my opponent. She suggested that complications take place during less than 1 out of 100 early abortions and 1 out of 50 late-term abortions. Late-term abortions, however, rarely take place. It was also stated that death from abortion is rare. Miscarriages were also brought up, and according to this website, Very Well Family, studies also exist that found no link between having an elective abortion and the risk of miscarriage in a future pregnancy. Some researchers have speculated that if there is an increased risk, the risk is likely to not come from the abortion but from other lifestyle factors. What I believe should be mentioned about abortion, however, is the consequences brought if it were made illegal. According to the book Abortion After Roe, Abortion After Legalization, the health benefits of legal abortion were both immediate and profound. Within a decade, the risk of death from legal abortion had fallen below 1 death per 100,000 abortions. Abortion had become far safer than childbirth. To make it a little more clear, childbirth gives a woman about 90 more times a higher death rate than having a legal abortion. In October 2012, a 31-year-old dentist named Savita Halapanagar suffered from extreme back pain at 17 weeks of pregnancy. Savita lived in Ireland. Because Ireland was a Catholic country, she was denied the option of abortion to save her life. There is no doubt that Savita would have been alive today if the procedure was accepted. If abortion were to be completely illegal, as my opponent suggests, many women with health issues would also pass away. Not to mention that because of strict abortion laws, an immense amount of women die each year. According to The Guardian, the risk of dying due to abortion is 0.6 out of 100,000, whereas 1 in 10 maternal deaths are caused by unsafe abortions. Unsafe abortions are performed 20 million times per year, making this about 200,000 deaths. Before Roe v. Wade, the rate of deaths due to self-induced abortions were high. In conclusion, I have discussed how more than 90% of the time the fetus is unable to feel pain. pain, how there is no correlation between women with breast cancer, miscarriages, and abortion, and lastly, how prohibiting abortion would potentially lead to vast consequences. Thank you.
All right, the structural things are labeled pretty clearly. The first point, you also make an argument about it potentially being a policy issue, and you're talking about why the opinion poll things don't matter. I think that that's a relevant argument to make because, in essence, when we're talking about policy questions, issues of value could come up. These things might be value-based, and you're in essence saying that's not really what we're supposed to be looking at here. So I appreciate the press on that. On the first point concerning whether or not it's murder, you kind of accept the premise that the advocate comes up with that says if there's pain, it's murder. And I'm not exactly sure that that is the premise that you want to go with. But having gone with it, you then attempt to diminish the likelihood that pain is present when the abortions are being presented. It's a little bit of a leap to suggest that because the neuron endings are not fully formed, or they may not go all the way to the end of the skin, that there's unlikely to be pain. I appreciate that argument. I don't remember what the advocate's information on the subject was. It certainly sounds like you've diminished it to some degree. Like I said, I think that there are probably some other arguments to be made on this particular point. You do suggest at one point that there has to be a cerebral cortex in order for there to be pain, but there's no evidence that says that that's true. And you say that there isn't a fully formed cerebral cortex at that particular point, and I don't really get any evidence that says that. I'm sure that you've got some information that refers to that. What I do have evidence for is when the abortions usually occur, and that's in the first 12 weeks. You do cite some information on that point. On the risk to the mother, I thought that you had a good counter study on the advocate's argument concerning breast cancer. You don't really do much to talk about what their evidence is and whether or not it's reasonable to make the inference that they are making with the evidence that they've got. You rely primarily on the rebuttal argument here about this study, and you defend the study pretty effectively. I thought that was fine. On the complications issue, you have some good statistical information. Again, there's not really much talk about what the advocate's argument is, and so like the same argument that I was making about earlier on the earlier speech, that we don't really get a chance to contrast what the arguments are as much. I have to think, okay, is this a good argument that responds to that particular position? I think if you want to make a winning argument, you want to explain to us why your argument is better than the other person's argument, and we're not getting as much of that as we might. That doesn't mean that your argument isn't good. It just means that there's more to it that could make it stronger. All right, thank you.